You know, some people have no willpower, no brains, no vision. They just drift through life like lumps of crap.
What is she talking about?
I'm going to try not to cry at this one. So yeah, I don't know why Burke and Wills did what they did, but it's like the universe opens up a bit like a box, like a cardboard box kind of thing. Each galaxy has to understand how bacteria sort of survives, emulates. Otherwise, you don't care. They call a camel like a desert ship. Wouldn't matter if it was Burke or Wills, if a camel just carried a box everywhere it went. At what stage would the cardboard deteriorate? Just sort of crust into the back of a camel. Like people have cardboard wings, but the hearts of all men is brown like the desert sand. But say cardboard, typically you look at a camel, you can't split it. Split the cardboard's a lot different. Splitting benches or splitting directions because we live in one sector. You give up too much during the day because you've got to keep it paced with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, just like school if you're sort of doing multiple areas of study, and some people find just one sort of task quite grueling and quite strenuous, to say the least, I suppose, because the vigor and rigour come into it, you know, the way you look at that. And yet, you know, it's one thing to go to the moon and come back and land safely or something, but you can't get along with this place here. But again, like, everyone's just wants a horse to bloody fly, whether it's friggin' fourth or second or third or first to fly fourth or something. But if you gave a camel a drink, you could just ride the whole friggin' universe out here without having to go to the moon, go to Mars. Like the only thing better than sort of 10 mils a day is about 15 mils every 2 days. The camel's thirsty. Got to be some goddamn hectic environment to be able to start the slimy process to even make a catchment or something like that. Everybody's mouth's a bit like that. To the wheel. It's like that bearing effect. Each and every chromosome, but that specific chromosome that exists in dirt, that exists in the ground. You know where to go with that. Just because of that bearing, it tightens everything up like that. Super mistakes. To be so bold to say such a thing, whether a baker's dozen, a yin-yang symbol, or just sort of circulatory in motion to some degree. It's we dominate the human prospects like that, but it doesn't suffice to remedy. Like, you can do a U-turn or something and but yet it's a letter that wouldn't even be in the damn alphabet. That's that's what it's like to understand the composition of logic. There's no damn reason unless you meet it halfway. But people are constantly putting some sort of symmetry in the mix. It's like that with the way we like to talk a good line, just like the composition and formation of a line. But we don't live it out in our behaviour, so we just tend to stare at it for a long time, just like horoscopes, zodiacs. Unless it was a stethoscope and a staphylococcal kind of a pattern. It's more significant size, seismological or something like that. In a world like this, you don't really want to meet anything halfway, because a camel wouldn't sign up for it. A duck would, but not a camel. The difference between a duck and a camel is a bit like an isle, like the isle of the islands, like the isles, an isle, just an isle. Otherwise, every time a camel would look at a cardiograph or something, not so much the heart reading, but of course like the shaping of the planet, continents and that, the continental fabrication to such a degree, must find it difficult to put its eyes on the whole thing, create one clear focus. It's almost insidious to think of how the world gets to a point, like a peninsula, like a point, anything, I don't know, it's like only at some resting point, the end of it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. For some people it just might be like clocks on the clock, or elbow grease and everything they did to put together a piece of cabinetware or some fucking thing. End up being exactly the goddamn same, just like the fingerprints of the gods or something. But the only difference is that it's difficult to carve it out like a straight edge, like a block made out of granite, perfectly cut in all edges. Say if it wasn't for the desert, like the oceans is the biggest desert in the world, God wouldn't need our help too much to put fucking blocks and shit together, eh? All boxes.
400 years prior to the discovery.
Because the only apex is it takes three to form an apex. You notice that in the pyramids where you take that fourth face, a four-faced pyramid, and you ask two sides of one face of a four-faced pyramid to touch together in the middle. It folds in like bird wings. That's where you get the action for flying, that's where you get the action for swimming. That's where you get the action to pump something. Nothing really goes past 13 minutes past 1 anyway. Two. I thought it was 2. It was serve a tennis ball at 10:30. pussy kick in it or something. Jesus Christ, is that why he wore a bandana on his forehead to suck up all the camel sweat? Oh yeah. It's one thing to piss yourself laughing and need an ice block to put the electrolytes back in there, about 65-70% of your body. But Earth's about 65-70% full of fucking oceanic water. We are the world, you are it. So what's every little bit of it and every speck of it? Probably like probably a cardiograph for this sector of the universe. Whether all these so-called dickheads were welcome or not, or whether your mother's a debaucher or a slut. You're not telling us who your creator or your dad is or something. You keep referring to sort of dads and mums and father and that, but every time you do that with nations and great civilizations, it's the same damn thing too, like queen or king and queen and all that sort of stuff too, so I'm not quite sure what it is to follow one inclination to sort of come back to it. Like a generation that forever continued, whether it was through a family tradition or a family business. Just keep coming back to the same point of extraction, like a pastry brush or an archaeological instrument for archaeology to ensure that you don't sort of break or damage anything along the way, every little pitter-patter and every sort of step of the way. Not like sort of replacing the behavioural sheets or the blueprints that great inventors track to ensure that they got things precisely before they invented the cognitive wheel. Refer that to the sparks of the brain or something. But that extraction point just is a shocker, isn't it? So because you're all over the world, just even pyramids like dog shit in every room you went in. Sometimes a phoenix has to, you think of the armory or the frame of a phoenix, a bit like the teeth in a chain, which is greater than the skin of a crocodile. It's metal, it's armory, but all of its actions in its wings and everything that it does is all got teeth to it like a chain. That's where you come up with that shape that isn't even described in like a Roman lettering system. It definitely is in the numerical system, but never in the lettering system, because of course either way you go with it, it's hard to put the number one in a temperature gauge and say that I was satisfied. You could put a straw on one side of a cup and it wouldn't really matter, right? You'd probably just sit there and play with the straw in the cup. But at some stage the straw's got to break. The camel's back, just sort of like the way, look for ways for straws to manipulate, chain itself around a cup, bit like, it just droops over the side of the cup like a special kind of a straw with, just tractable teeth and stuff to it. Like Japanese origami folding methods. So long as the human jumps, if a human can jump, then origami can take place. but it's never designed to come back down unless it turned into a phoenix. Would have had to have turned to a phoenix through origami before its feet hit the ground again on Earth. Like when you throw a kite up in the sky and you find it tangled, if you're a genius to untangle it while it's in flight, a bit like that with a parachute or something where you find yourself caught in it, you better wrap yourself to ensure you can land safely. It's much more complex than that. The motoring system too. To the chain or that metal armor or something like that, it's not just a monorail, it's not just some kind of magnetic drift, helps you hover through it. It's actually encompassed by it. You don't just peel an orange and come up with zest sometime later. Like cardiographs or something, find some way to dig into it easier and deal with offcuts and things like that, and scraps, and some way, shape, form, fashion or capacity in which to sort of continue with it, deal with it. There's an incipient kind of view that people forever have and they just go with it, but it stands to be corrected, as I'm sure. Say a stupid calculator with Roman numerals in it, do 6 different equations, come up with the same answer every time, but it's a stupid calculator. If the origami was found in a friggin' Roman a numerical system with Roman instruments and dices that go with it, fair enough, and it's for highly applauded and commended. But it had sort of popped like, like a weasel before it ever would. I don't know, like somebody that blew a balloon, popped it. Balloons like just fall to the ground like that. So I'll pick it up and I'll blow it up, do it right this time. You say, what's in it? Yes, we'll put it like a black opal sphere connected with the positive and negative charges that rip through that pyramid with the sun backing it like a halo. The right hand of God, the left hand just capturing it a bit like a trapezoid field. The metric scale, you've got the rotational shift and you've got the metric scale, the rotational shift to the spectral field with the light to the end of it, but where that rotational shift occurs, like thanks to chain to the wheel every 500 years for 500 years to the point of frivolous concept beyond having to burn a hole in a rock. You see it sort of fall apart like a water vapor on a piece of paper. It's hard to hold that together. Chain to the wheel though. origami out of a drop of water. Wow. Condensation, evaporation, precipitation, but precipitation relates more to light, doesn't it? Precipitating light. It's like solar energy panels would take away any last bit of hope that we got to draw adequate rain through the 4 seasons.
Every day. Why don't you go back to school, graduate, and get the company?
Because I don't want it anymore.
What do you mean you don't want it anymore?
Do I got something coming out of my nose?
You know what? I can't believe I ever liked someone who could just roll over and die like this.
I ain't rolling over and dying. I was set up. And worst of all, nobody believes me.
I believe you, Billy. And I believe in you. You know, some people have no willpower, no brains, no vision. They just drift through life like lumps of crap.
What is she talking about?
It's like solar energy panels would take away any last bit of hope that we got to draw adequate rain through the 4 seasons. Especially when you've got no water to start with, kind of thing. In a lot of cases, it would dissipate it, wouldn't it? Solar panels tend to be a bit like the face of a box rather than a point of extraction like the apex. If you remove it in this case like a teepee, but of course like the beak of a bird, but I'm not sure if it's actually quite like the beak, if it meant that the physical armory, the actual phoenix works like a chain. It's not as bitter as a scorpion's sting to have to sort of taste it. Bloody lasher. If a drop of water touched your tongue and it's enough to make you scream, then you say like the Antarctic region sort of relates to that red spot in Jupiter. Then Australia is a bit like an indicator, isn't it? You fold a piece of paper in half and put a pencil right through it, you're not going to come up with the letter A too quickly. Because by the time you start spinning the pencil, you're like a rotary. The heavens make one big damn mess of a piece of paper, doesn't it? There's particles everywhere. You say so long as the pencil or the lead or something, the plutoniumatic, right? You made that shit. You know, was crazy about the paper. If it had no leveler to start with, it wouldn't understand the heights in which to reach, in opposed to plummeting to those depths. Is that a catch situation? Like a catch? Because without it, you'll start to face, the indicators will forever remain in a safe place, but the tracked estimate, just like tractoring it or factoring it in, whether it's the pathway in the life of a phoenix or be it the phoenix itself. Doesn't sort of shake its tail and hope that everybody stares at it and watch what I can do. It's one thing to take a water droplet and split it between you and your camel or in your mouth or something. Yeah, it's going, I did it with me and my flesh and bones. I did it with me and I did it with my roof over my head and my personal hygiene. I did it with my house and home. Aircon, yeah. Air conditioned hell. Take every bone in a body and shave it. No matter how much you shave bones, you would always end up with a particle. How do you split a bone? Is how you ask, how do you split an atom? Because no matter how much you keep shaving a bone, the way it calcifies and calculates, you'll always have something there. You just cannot get rid of it. So put some dough or something to it, like a Play-Doh or a bit of dust or sand or mud or something, and no, you need to put a lead to it, like a plank, like a straw over a cup. When it comes to atom theories, did you know that you don't actually split an atom, you actually split the outer core? How the hell do you split the outer core only to create the inner, to split the actual atom? It's not like having to detonate something before it hits the ground, right? Like a MOAB device or something. Like, you'd say that that's how they use it, but that's not entirely how they do it, to blow big holes, like, you know, greater carpet bomb contamination or containment, should we say, or contamination. No, it's like taking it with it, like the shit of a phoenix, until it decides to drop it. And ride the whole theory at something like 6.2 and just forget about it. Times 5. Just like your teeth. You know, I said both of them, both pellets. Spider at 30, but proverb at 31. A precipitating light, of course, and say what light can shatter its core. Like you say, it's only going to decimate its concept. Whoa. So refractions, the light, it dominates the margin. So I haven't said with the light, precipitating light, and refractions dominate the margin, just like a drop of water or light through water. Think about that with smoke, how smoke actually is the one true living connecting chemical that relates to our primitive life form, our terrestrial human. It's the one only real thing that actually connects us all, like fire, the art of cooking, and everything that shelters from things like that. Without it, our brains didn't get larger, we didn't get healthier, we didn't even, get the industries right. But like whether it's religion, be it God, but of course there could be some creation. And of course it could be something like rock concerts or God knows what the people worship in the world. But the one thing that links all ancestry in the world is actually, like whether it be, you say, precipitating light, is actually smoke. Not so much fire, but smoke. People might say where there's smoke, there's fire, but it's not like that when we consume only 2% of water and the other 98% we sort of, the world uses for something else, just like the way we do with our washing and showering and basins and flushes, but the way it falls through the fingers of the gods too. There is channels like that, and smoke actually channels and funnels through volcanic passages as much as it does the creeks and river systems, so... the cylindrical patterns to didgeridoos that could bring out a shape of any creature or physical shape or structure, even spirits within the atmosphere, so long as you actually carved it through a cylindrical chamber. It might only show itself above a fire where smoke, provides a kind of a smoke screen. But unless you play it properly like whether with boomerangs on a vine to create a winding effect, or blowing through a cylindrical whistle to talk to a snake, or like funneling certain air through to a fire to create greater oxygen to sort of, you won't actually be able to, like when you blow or you throw sand on a piece of paper or something that's got glue, you'll see like the result. If you knocked all the sand off, you see blotches of sand and might create some sort of shape like that. Because blast turns glass to rocks, doesn't it? Yeah. Phoenix know no blasts, Phoenix know no glass, and Phoenix know no rocks. They only know the outer shell of a water vapor and grind it down to that which, bit like the teeth to the chain, the cognitive wheel. Grinds it, shapes it, molds it, manipulates it, crafts it, but nothing to that degree. The contours and that very logic, that seismological condition of just only dropping a deposit and cardiographing the universe like origami to a water droplet. So a binary code, just like a piece of water, like a droplet of water, is correct the way you read it from last to first or first to last, sort of like a headache tablet from top left to bottom right. So Revelation is before Genesis, and that's where you follow the Genesis creation, the Genesis theory, to anything that sort of opens and folds like bird wings. In a proverbial sense, it's like following a starving hair's breadth of a spider's touch on things. There's just a little bit of a particle left. Because arachnoids, like spiders, we get the word arachnophobia from, is the fact that spiders are actually scared of spiders. If you wanted it still, just like a spider to stay still, you would only wish it would. And so like the emulation, that E and the E again, you wonder why the spider actually carves out a web, and it does carve it. It's not like it just sort of spits everywhere it does and just runs tracks through it, as referring to the status of a phoenix, and you would perfectly wish to exculpate that, because of course everything happens through vibration and sound, and so it does change the shape of formations. But I was referring to that earlier, where if you have a name, it might not be formal or informal. And it's one thing to extract from through urgency, venom in order to create an antithesis or an antibody or an anti-venom or an anti-anything. Rolling around and get a bit didn't hurt anyone or something. There's got to be a point where it kind of ends, and that's where a web is a bit like a fault line. A web's a bit like a heart monitor, your life support system. Does that make sense? Rather than a photographic finish. To see Aristophanes over the line with its fork and spoon on the lip of an animal, like a horse, because all mammals stem from horses, the long face of a whale, the chihuahua looking up at a damn horse, only for the horse to ask the chihuahua, why the long face, you wolf? Just to negotiate it with feet that can break as quick as you take a gun out of a holster and shoot it in the head to be humane to it, and that's it. Bon voyage. crustaceans, e-crustaceans. But every sand in the ocean a bit like the sack of a spider, or sacks of spiders. And who knows, you know? A horse would take you everywhere to show you the planet like your dad would if he just picked you up in his arms, and no matter how little you were, your eyes were so big you just wanted a vantage point to see it all. The tsunami until you rode the bloody world like a wave. Nummies. Get up on your 2 feet even while you're crawling, just take something down from the coffee table back down to the floor, a bit like a tsunami. A damn zoo. Bloody eyes of a squid. Your eyes can see 186,000 miles per second through time and space. That's why everyone can see the horizon if it wasn't for the building. They can see the moon. They can see the sun. They can actually see stars, can't they? If a spider could touch it, it wouldn't be here.
Because the only apex.
A binary code.
Pyramids where
But the light, precipitating light that shines through a water vapor, a water droplet. Refractions dominate the margin. The margins. Light shines through picket fences. But if it was a brick wall, you wouldn't see the density of light. The density of rain. Because of water, we actually have eyesight. Because of water, we actually have light. Without it, we don't have even contact lenses. Contacts have to be a bit like the spider web, doesn't it? But not so much the brain like the spider. 4 shaved legs of it has a tongue. It's got to be something more pungent than that. A sponge or a squalus or a cyanemone or a starfish. He regenerated and he didn't like it. People didn't like Vegemite, supposedly it was fucking awful and horrible. It was only to protect your war paint or the rose in it. Because it was so rich in vitamin B complex or something, and so you don't leave it out to dry. But you don't have to put it in the fridge either. Refrigerators are a nesting pod for bacteria. Store it below 0 degrees, store below 25 degrees, but the body temperature's at 38 degrees or something. What you put in, the regulation of the Reader's Digest. Wow. Just add water and you come up and you make everlasting fairy floss. Can't be no yellow submarine or green limousine. It's a gravitron, man. Just got to stick your finger either in it, just like the placement of certain, products or something, or you have to point people in the right direction to keep them the hell away from it. So long as they take the fairy floss machine with them. Can't be that simple. I mean, well, the chain to the wheel is sort of like saying, you put a frog in the water, it's all right, but if you boil it, it's going to jump out. No, the stupid thing carry all the filth and piss and shit and everything with it, pardon the language, but that's why you're supposed to boil things anyway. If all you did was steam it, you just fill yourself up with parasites, just like the candy crap you put on a stick, right? Or being unqualified for a submarine position because, of course, you've only got brains. You didn't know how to fight or shut up or fend or wear off anything or protect or struggle with something. Can't be combat if you have to fight disease or get clothes off the line or stop from landing tangled in a parachute. And it doesn't have to provide some special technique that just watches a bird do tricks and backflips and stuff. Sort of like, you know, by the time you beat the speed of sound in reverse, you could have... Yes, stop please, driver. If you shared water properly,
Speak for yourself, moron.
The need for people to boil their clothes or to actually adopt and adapt to clothes that's capable of being boiled, so that how does that relate to a phoenix carving out a water droplet? Can't just sort of run water through something that it invigorates and excites them, like microscopic topics. It's bad enough you just give it soap to eat or something, but that's a bit like the chromosomes in the dirt. But there's no greater dirt than soap, there's no greater soap than dirt, should I say. Like if you went ahead and threw all your clothes in the dirt and then put it back through the wash, it would do your clothes a marvelous treatment, provided you had the right dirt. It's like that with the physical skin and the physical body too. Have you noticed that the dirt is like a soap, but it's actually the most effective form of soap? Sort of like, you know, perfectly complements water, if you think about it. Of course, it carves it up like the armory of a phoenix, right? Again, like the cognitive logic being chained to the wheel. Yes, sirree. And if the first is last and last is first, so there's like, what is dirt in opposed to water if the rain hits the ground? That sunshine fills the rain every time you speak, like the water on the clothes, like a stone throw from the crows, sunshine fills the rain. Yeah. Gracias, Gracias, Carcarian, Cacarius. That third line in a triangle that never closes up. There's always an opening to it, like a piping bag. If it wasn't the case, water wouldn't fall out of the sky. Trigonometry. Now people concentrate on what they have rather than what they step into, but if that's the difference between intimacy and intimidation as opposed to intimacy, then like a dog, if it would always be timid, it would just back itself up and piss itself. Because dogs tend to piddle everywhere, even when they get a bit timid. Maybe that's why it fetches a frisbee. It doesn't know if it's hungry, if it just wants to play. I'm nearly crying. Because a frisbee ain't no damn cardboard box. And a master ain't no damn camel. Lackadaisical as a camel may or may not be. Down syndromes, like they're your brother, they're your sisters and brothers, just missing a chromosome. some part of it. So for you to have an extra chromosome is like a bearing that tightens everything up, makes you a super mistake maker. The trait's just like it. So therefore, intimacy and intimidation, you're all born brainless with some need to obtain something, subduing it and then multiplying it to some degree. You never lose what you got. It's sort of there. It's just in the back of your head or something. Stuff there like an opening to a triangle. Triangles never close. Triangles never close up. The moment you turn circles to triangles, you're waiting for Paul to pay Peter before you pay someone or something. It's not a game of science like that. Mathematics is no queen of the sciences. Language is the queen of science. She's what's called the demagogue, just like the language. Impregnable as computer guides themselves are. This pinhead and waited for it to fall out of me. Must have chipped an ovary. Unless it was purely designed to skip a beat in your heart muscle. And just go from there. Ghost leaves the body when you die. Sometimes you let off a dove or two, eh? Shit. Oh God.
Speak for yourself, moron.
The hearts of all men is brown like the desert sand, and it rarely yields a dove. Just like a cactus rose to or a cactus blossom to a cacti. If it didn't have any blemish or something to it, it would be well, by the time the rain hits a white rose, it turns brown. Why would you need language for that? Even at a funeral, like you heard that in a movie. Speaking all this exemplary stuff about spirits and lives and everything, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and blah 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 blah. You were late. By the time you showed up, it was pissing down rain. Whether or not you got to throw a white rose in the grave for someone. That straw looks a lot different on a cup now, doesn't it? And so does the crust on bread if you ate it. Yeah, it nicks a bit. To occupy the wrong body or skeletal system, or knowing if humans are even welcome in a planet like this, like the terrestrial pattern. Never DNA, obviously, but more like occupation, like are we fit? Is this mammal territory? It seems fit, so beautiful, peaceful, quiet habitation for sound to evolve and to actually thunder out that message into the universe too. Thunder is quicker than lightning, isn't it? When you really, really think about last is first and first is last. Thunder is quicker than lightning. There's no freaking way it's faster than lightning. Yeah, but it's quicker. Because the sweetest sound to our ears is actually our name. Why is it that the crack of thunder is not seen like the rumble of lightning? That's astonishing to me. Is that sell one, sell a million, like the ambiguous millions, but like occupation is a bit like an advert that either suits the confine. You can't just captivate your senses because somebody told you.
Speak for yourself, moron.
It's like having to describe a photograph that is a bit like meat on the bone, but by the time you occupy what you pay for, the meat's been eaten and you're just given the bones. It's a lot different than castles in the air, where supposedly psychiatrists operate free in the castle, but who the hell pays the rent in your imaginary castle or something? If you know what I mean, similar to occupation, where bones with no meat on it is like that when we advertise. Humans subdue things and multiply it. Sell one, sell a million, the ambiguous millions. If it fell through the grill, we use it similar to a pan to refine what we're looking for, till we come up with like similes, but like exactly like gold deposits or something, like when we search for things like that, and then the grill catches it. Our fingers certainly do. And then, like, you say fool's toil, and opposed to mineral deposits. And so it's obviously there, it's deposited. But like occupation and terrestrial, it's like, we have estimates, but estimates aren't evaluations. But approximates always lead to the approximate. Like your proximity, your proxy, proximity, whatever. Proximeters. You can't really confuse a hexameter from a pentagon. Because like the third line in a triangle, and like trigonometry itself, it's only trying to close the third line. There's only forever a small opening every time. That's trigonometry for you, that very small opening that always forever exists between the third line of a triangle. It never closes up. A triangle never closes. So we always try to make some kind of trapezoid at best. Refractions dominate the margin, otherwise how could water actually escape the shape? It doesn't. It has to open and close like bird wings, or funnel it through, like shatter it until it falls out like sweat from the skin. Until it exacerbates like rain, yeah? And if it's rain, it's pouring. If it was just showers, it won't create much of a bath water. Yeah. Especially if you advertise whole meat only to receive the bones with no meat on it. It's like that with housing and jobs as it is. So we occupy a physical, but to be homeless is unheard of, because homelessness means flesh and bones. even when you pass the blame or pass the buck, like you say, oh, you'd never give up on your flesh and blood, or your flesh and bone, no matter what they are, only if they're the type that'll steal your car or something, or steal your camera or something. I don't know, like, you know. If it was ever just a conversation, it's like it's not for rent or something, but I'm sorry. If you gave a dog a bone, and again, if a dog holds onto your leg, doesn't it just sort of want to put it in a hole, yet it holds onto it just so tight? You say, what's that all about? Well, you know, it's got to fall out in order, it falls out like gravity, and then the earth, like the sphere, the ground just swallows it up. That's not gravity. It falls out like gravity, but it gets swallowed up by proximity. You fell out of your mother. Some people, you know, say, you know, of course, like something falls out of a package, but it only doesn't sort of go back in. Unless you split it. Goodness gracious, or gracias, Calcarean, Calcareous. That third line in a triangle that never tries to
Come back later and check on it. Now back on my grind. Yo, slow up, manipulating niggas, sweeping niggas, taking fake niggas, hating faking niggas, so you hear me? Protect your neck, MCs be faking, so now they get taken.
Everywhere, like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa, and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but